Welcome to Behind the Doors, the podcast where we take you behind the scenes of residential real estate investing. I'm your host, Dan Noma Jr., here with my co-host, Marvin Crues.
We're here to help you unlock the best strategies and practice for investors. Whether you're just starting out or you're a seasoned pro looking to scale your portfolio.
We've spent decades navigating the ever-changing world of real estate, and now we're sharing everything we've learned to help you succeed.
From off-market deals to cash flow management and everything in between, we'll break it down and bring you actionable insights that can make a real difference in your investments.
So get ready to open the door to new opportunities and take your real estate investing to the next level. Let's dive in. Marvin, we're here.
Hey.
We are here. We are here, man.
We're here, buddy.
We are doing it. We're actually doing this podcast. We've been talking about this for a while. Episode number 1.
Can you believe that?
We're on it.
Can you believe that?
It's happening.
The world is about to hear about this. This is going to be awesome.
We're going to do it, man. We're going to do it. Well, yeah, I was thinking, we should start by giving everybody a little kind of rundown on, who we are, where we've been, a little bit of our story on, how we even met each other. Maybe we can probably start with all of that, but maybe just about the general business model, right? And how we got into doing what we do today,
Absolutely, yeah.
What makes us experts, and we can dive in. So, I guess I can kick that off. I started this idea of a business, right? 22 years ago. And now I just feel old for saying that, but 22 years ago, I got into the real estate business. My dad's a developer and in real estate, and so I kind of grew up in the space.
Right.
I got out of college in 2004. Again, dating myself. Old.
Yeah.
2004, and at the time I was just kind of shocked that people were investing in real estate, right? But they were investing with they were using the same amount of money that they would invest in stocks, bonds, whatever it was. Mm. But they were investing in a real estate, and they were using someone to invest that money with that didn't have a ton of training. And I didn't have a ton of field experience necessarily, but I did have a lot of education in it. And so when I, was doing internships and came out of this whole thing, I started looking at this model, and I'm like, I think there's a world between residential real estate agent, which has a niche and has a certain purpose, for sure.
Right.
And commercial real estate investment type brokers. And I said, man, if people want to invest in a residential real estate, they're kind of met with a choice of having to choose either one of these. And the commercial guys typically don't touch it at all, right? So really what you're left with is this mom and pop residential real estate agent. Again, nothing wrong with them, but that they didn't have the tools, the knowledge, the financial modeling backgrounds, all of the things to identify a good investment.
Yeah, because most people get into this because they heard that it's the right thing to do, right? What industry has produced more millionaires than any other industry? Real estate.
Right.
And so, of course, the people get excited about it. But to your point, are they doing it the right way?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a good point.
Yeah.
Sorry, keep going.
Yeah, so I was just, I thought that maybe there was a niche that we could build, right? And this idea was that, we were going to represent investors and investors only. And at the time it was 2004 in the market here. I don't know if you remember that, but it was bonkers. Remember, people were writing contracts on the back of their cars.
That's right. Yep. People had 10 homes each.
If you had a pulse, you could make money in real estate or mortgage.
Yeah.
I mean, it was that simple. I mean, you honestly didn't even need to have a social security number to get a loan.
Right.
It was crazy times. So, to build a niche at the time was kind of unique, right? Nobody was doing that. Nobody was niching. Everybody was just doing everything because you could, right? There was just this huge demand for real estate. It was cheap, and people were just buying it like crazy, right? The cost of money was cheap. The barrier of entry was easy, and that's how I started it, right? And that company, Venture REI is what it was called, and still is today. They're still around. I started it for me. I didn't, it wasn't like I went around and recruited a bunch of agents to come into the brokerage or anything else like that. I, as you know, have never had a job, right? So for me, like I needed my own thing, right? It was like I had to have my own gig,
Right.
and just work with these investors. So so we started working with mom and pop real estate investors, and my education, my background's in commercial finance, business, and real estate, right? And so, I had done a bunch of internships at commercial firms, came out of those, with a wealth of knowledge. I'm glad I did all of that. And, saw the residential side of the business at my kitchen table with my parents my whole life, right? And learned how they operated and developed properties and bought rentals and flipped homes and built, subdivisions and did all kinds of different things. And the business just kind of took off, right? I didn't do a lot of marketing. I didn't do a lot of advertising. I just kind of was word of mouth of like, hey, I do something different, and this is what we do. I mean, 2004, like Facebook, it wasn't even out then, was it? Like Meta?
No, I don't think 2004 or Facebook. Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't think so. I don't remember us running any like Google ads or doing any of that kind of stuff, But the clients that we worked with, they really liked our ability to model, right? And so I had a couple of people on my team, and I taught them some modeling techniques. And what we were able to do is like get really good information. And it was hard at the time to get good information, right? And so we had to research and come up with our own data sets. It wasn't like it is today, where there's just like data available. And then we just dove in, right? And we started representing these guys. And then, as it was about 2006, 2007. One of our clients came to me and asked me, he shared with me that he was going to turn single family homes into public companies. And I kind of thought he was crazy, right? Like, and you've heard me tell this story. I kind of share that I forever have egg on my face, because when these guys started doing this single family REITs, is what we're talking about. When they first started doing this, it started here in Mesa, Arizona, right? The first group that did this, was a group called Treehouse Group, and they started in Mesa, Arizona. And I was representing them selling like 1 and 2 houses a month, and I was kind of selfish, thinking like, oh, this is like, I don't want them to go do something else, because I'm making decent money just selling them a couple of properties a month. But they had this, this vision that they wanted to turn single family homes into public companies. And that was the plan. I'll never forget that, I kind of told them they were nuts. They went out, they raised a bunch of money from Blackstone. And, that company today is the largest owner of single family homes in the country. They own, a couple 100,000 homes, right? So just a ton of homes. So yeah, in 2006, 2007, the team did like 180 transactions, and we were kind of a big deal, like not like a huge deal, but like a bigger deal in Phoenix. I'm only like a year or 2 out of school. And I was only selling investments. I wasn't really selling homes that people lived in. So it was unique. And the next year, my first assignment from this REIT was to buy 2,000 homes in Phoenix. 2,000.
Has it ever been done before at the time?
No.
I don't think so, right?
Yeah,
2000. It
no.
may seem small today, but you got to go back during that time.
Yeah.
2000, that was a big deal.
It's a big number now. I mean, it's still a big number of homes. And no one had ever done it before, right? So it wasn't like we could just go out and we could find someone that had done it before and then go, hey, you've done this in Atlanta. I'm going to be doing this in Phoenix. How does it work? Yeah. Like, what do I need to know?
So elaborate there. How did you do it? How did you buy 2,000 homes? Where did you start?
Yeah. So, we had a time frame too, right? So we had to get it done in a certain time frame. So we had about 18 months to get the first fund together. Yeah. And that was the plan. I wasn't the only broker. They had one other guy that was a broker in there too. And we were competing with each other. So it was kind of funny. We were competing in the same market for the same client. And, we both had the same ideas first. We collaborated a little bit, but, we went right after the MLS, right? That was the lowest hanging fruit. Those properties were for sale. And so we focused on MLS properties, and we started making offers on MLS properties. And, that time there wasn't, we didn't have like automated offer making systems or anything like that, right? So we were manually typing out every contract, sending these contracts to the listing agent, and then having to follow up and see if we can get these offers accepted.
What was talk about the 2000? Like, why was 2000 the number? Were you looking for a certain delta, a certain return?
Yeah. So, their plan all along was to, take these, and I think we're going to talk about single family REITs in detail. Like in our episode 3 is when Leo's coming in, and we're going to talk about that. But, in general, like what they try to do is they try to aggregate enough rentals to make it interesting enough to be able to sell that as a package in the public market, right? So think of like, how a company goes and they have like an IPO day and they ring the bell and the whole team's up there and they're cheering and whatnot. It's the same thing, except, they're not doing all the cheering. And, it's a package of homes that now gets sold into the public market, right? They got to get securitized first, right? And we can get into what all that means too. But then once they're securitized as a package, now you can buy shares of residential real estate instead of owning the asset yourself. Like you're not the landlord necessarily, but you're an investor in the fund that owns, thousands of homes.
No, it totally makes sense.
About a couple, so in this scenario, the first fund, I think all in, it ended up being about 7,000 homes. I think that's what it was the first time. Was about 7,000 the first time they went out for an IPO on it, and it was crazy successful. Wildly successful over our dreams. But yeah, started with the MLS, and then we went direct to consumer. And I think that's where, like, if I could point to like one point in my career that was probably most valuable, it was learning how to work to get consumers to raise their hand about potentially selling their house. Right. Like I took every lick possible during that period of time and spent so much money trying to get people to raise their hand to say that they would sell their house. It was crazy. At one point I was sending 150,000 mail pieces a month. 150,000 mail pieces.
Random addresses.
Yeah, not like dead random, right? So not like, completely random, but we knew the general characteristics of the properties that our client was interested in. And then I would take that information and I would, say, okay, well, somebody that's owned the home for maybe 5 years or more might be more interested in selling than somebody that has only owned it for 2 years, right? So we started with like legacy owners was like the first wave of them. And, it worked. But it's expensive. I had, you've seen the people in our office that are still with us that were there at that time. They'll tell you that we had like the kids from the Boys and Girls Club in there. They were printing, folding, licking envelopes, that whole thing. I mean, that's what it was. There wasn't a more efficient way to do it. I mean, we were cutting edge. That was cutting edge. The kids of the Boys and Girls Clubs was cutting edge. And then honestly, like the third phase of it became, because the letters were working. MLS was working. We were buying a certain volume. The letters started to work, and we bought a decent amount of volume through the letters. About 1% of the letters I sent, I got a response on. But every time that like I would, meet a consumer, I'd give them one of our offers. If our offer wasn't accepted, I just kind of threw out the lead, right? I wasn't a listing agent. That's not what we did. So I didn't really have a plan for, doing something with that lead or monetizing on the lead. So it just got really expensive. And then, the third step that we took was really just like an aha. One day I was sitting, with my title rep at like a meetup. And I don't even remember the topic, but I know, like, I specifically know where it was. It was at a lender's office in Chandler. And I was watching, them bring real estate agents into this room to listen to somebody talk about, lending, I think is what the topic was. And, that it kind of dawned on me that I was like, man, the title representatives have influence. Like these guys can bring real estate people to one central location. And if I can come up with a really compelling reason for them to come, I could do the stage thing. I could be on the stage and I could offer those real estate agents something. Yeah. And so, that's where we started. And, my title rep, I asked them to, go with me on this journey. And I was like, hey, just ride with this, bring a bunch of real estate agents into a room. Let me pitch them on this idea that maybe when they go on a listing presentation, that they should bring a cash offer from my investor to their listing presentations, and let's just see what happens. Let's see if A, they get a higher conversion rate. B, can I buy some of these houses? I'll let them represent the seller. I had no interest in that. But I wanted to, our motivation was to buy. We needed to buy these assets, And, so I had I remember it was a Google form that people would fill out. And they would send over the property address, and that's how we started. And they would send over the property address either that way, or we would just take them in via email. There wasn't thousands of agents like we have today. It was a few, and they would send us these deals. We would evaluate the deal on behalf of our buyer, send them an offer, and then they would bring the cash offer plus their go-to-market strategy to listing appointments. And that's when we started to really scale, was when real estate agents became our vehicle, right? And, it just happened. It wasn't like I had a plan, going into it at all. That wasn't the case. Yeah. And then, obviously now, we've evolved quite a bit.
There it is.
So
there it is.
22 years later, we've now evolved into something. So, but yeah, it's funny to see how far cash offer and instant offer has gone, and, I've had a cool seat at the table watching, prop tech. So companies like Opendoor and OfferPad and Zillow Offers and Redfin got into the space for a while. But it's not a new thing, like that We Buy Ugly Houses guy. You ever see that guy?
Yep, I do. Every morning.
He's, that's a 40-something-year-old franchise company, so it's not a new thing. We just put a new twist on it, right? By providing the lead or the offer to real estate agents. And then, watching those companies evolve was something else. We got a real education. Again, just watching how they worked and interacted with real estate agents too.
Oh, thanks for going in depth, because I think it's important that people get to know you. They know your background on real estate, right? You started from your dad's a developer. You were a real estate agent. You're an investor yourself. And so you're not just spitballing. You come with a wealth of experience. So I just thought it was important to let you speak and let the audience know that, hey, this guy knows what he's talking about. He's failed in some cases. He's seen success, but also our partnership, right, with Fidelity.
Yeah,
right. That's just not a normal partnership. They're the best. Right. They're the largest out there.
Yeah.
Can you talk about how did that happen? How did you get in a relationship with Fidelity?
Yeah. So Fidelity National Financial, FNF. I've always stayed in my lane, right? I never got into trying to be too many things to my customers. I remember when real estate agents used to go get mortgage licenses, you used to be able to hold both, and then you could represent a consumer on the purchase and do their mortgage. That's crazy. That's a lot of work too. There's two separate jobs and you're doing that. And that's how I kind of felt about title. I never wanted to get into the title business. I really they had the relationships, and I saw it that way, right? What I saw was that they were the ones that could go to all the real estate agent offices, and they could spread my message, and they could aggregate these rooms that I could go speak to, or they could take like my product and sell, to other real estate agents. And I didn't need to put my own sales force into it. I mean, I had to put a lot of like blood, sweat, and tears into like giving them the right materials to go out and go with. But I never got into the business. I never wanted to be in the title business. And I'm also like pretty loyal. 22 years, I've never used a different title company, right? So, been courted and, different times, I've tested different title companies for different things. But, strategically, I just never had the time or motivation to go out and try to work with other title companies. That just made a lot of sense. The service was good enough. It was fine. And my clients never complained, and they were the biggest company. And so why change, and that's how it started. And so, in like 22, 23, we had like a banner year as a company. We did about 4,600 transactions between Arizona and Nevada. And the team from F&F, like their leadership team came down to meet with me. And, we went out to dinner to kind of celebrate a banner year and just have conversation and fun. And then they started to ask a lot of questions about how. They were like,
how are you doing this?
How do you do this?
What are you doing and how are you doing
and how do you do it with 25 people too? Like our teams are always very lean and small. How do you do this thing? And so I started to share with them, here's how we do it. Here's what we do. Here's the tool that we've built. And here's why it works, and here's all the things. And they said, well, can you take it and scale it? Like, could you take that tool and could you scale that product around the country and put the tool in other people's hands and scale bigger? Like, could you do something bigger than just what you're doing today? And honestly, it never really dawned on me. Like, I'm not a tech guy. Like, I built technologies to just help us transact.
I don't think I even knew that part.
Yeah, no,
I thought this was all your idea from the get-go.
Well, I mean, I can dream it, right? But I can't build it. Yeah. I'm not an engineer. I can't read or write code, you know what I mean? But yeah, we just built products out of necessity, right? It was like, we've got to quickly get offers out the door. We need a more efficient way to do that. And I would just go and research and find a bunch of people that knew how to do that. And we would build a little widget, and the widget, we would add on to our tool, and that would be like the next tool.
That's amazing.
And so, the tool was, it was pretty raw, to be honest. Like it wasn't what it is today. It was same features and same functionalities in general, but for the most part, it was built, pretty raw from a data perspective, from a technical perspective. Because it was just built for my team. Nothing pretty. There was nothing pretty there. It was just built for efficiencies and time, and that's really what it was built for.
No, that's awesome. No, I remember talking to you, a couple of years ago now, about this product, and so I just remember you telling me about this amazing tool and how it helps investors and how it helps real estate agents. And I remember telling you, wait, it's free? Like, it doesn't cost?
Yeah.
And I was blown away. And so I'm excited to be a part of it because, one, it helps. And, a little bit of, my story, but for those that don't, right? Like, I started off in the Air Force.
Yeah.
And when I got out of the Air Force, I joined a company called MCI WorldCom. I don't know if you remember MCI WorldCom, but a long distance company. And I was doing support. And my eyes got really big because I instantly was like, I love helping people. This is it. But my vision was, at the time, was if I can be the head of customer support and sales. And I kid you not, I went to a lady at the time who was my mentor and said, in order to be the best, though, I want to learn sales and support. And I don't know if you remember, but old school telemarketing, where you used to call people at the kitchen table. Well, we were doing that for long distance. And so that's how I met. I met you in Arizona.
Do they sell long distance anymore?
No, I don't think so. I think it's all free at this point now. But I think you just call anybody, any country. Yeah. I don't even know if you get charged anymore.
I don't think so.
Yeah, we were selling long distance. You remember that? That's back in 1999.
I remember my mom being mad when we would call somebody long distance
Yeah,
because it would show up on the bill, and she'd be like, "What the hell? What'd you do?" Yeah.
And so I did sales, and then my career just really took off from e-commerce to retail to telecommunications. Almost became a firefighter at one point for Phoenix, but that's a different episode. But yeah, the reason why I say all of that is because I've never been behind a product that it didn't cost anything and it truly helps people. Like truly helps. And I think that's what blew me away about this amazing opportunity. And maybe that's important to know. Why free? Like when you were envisioning this to help agents and investors, why no cost when you clearly could have charged for this?
Yeah, I think, we probably could charge people to use the tools, right? But I honestly, like what I saw in the market was that, one is that real estate agents, like I knew that we couldn't buy every house, right? Like that was like one of the early learnings that we had in cash offer was that, when we started giving agents cash offers and they were taking those to the kitchen table, like our cash offer only works a certain percentage of times, like now it works 20% of the time.
Right.
At that time, it worked a little bit more, right? Like we were getting a little bit higher of a hit rate because cash offer wasn't so, mainstream as it is today. It was new and people were like, yeah, I'll take that, and my clients were paying more for the houses at the time too. They were cheap, really cheap houses. Houses were, 90, 150,000. Now they're $500,000. So, I knew that like our value proposition to real estate agents is not that our client's going to buy every house, right? That's not the value proposition. And I think if that was the value proposition, we could charge for it.
Makes sense, yeah.
But it's not, right? Our value proposition is that we provide them with a strategy to show up to a listing presentation with so that they can be the, Travelocity, so to speak, of all available options to their consumer. And then they can get the consumer to raise their hand more often, right? And I think we'll talk, like in another episode, I know we're going to talk about marketing and real estate agent marketing and, ways that they can market. But the idea of like guaranteed sale, cash offer, instant offer, this is where it all started, right? And we were pioneering all of this stuff. Right. We just, saw early that it wasn't every house. We weren't going to get every house,
Right.
So in order to do that, we had to provide a service to the agent. And, the benefit to us was that we got the opportunity to swing at the deal, right? And a certain percentage of consumers are going to accept the instant or cash offer, and some of them are not, And then with the investor side, honestly, I think I felt that I honestly just felt bad for a lot of real estate investors that had made poor buying decisions, right? I would meet with real estate investors. They would come into our office. They would show me their current real estate portfolio, and maybe it was one or two houses that they owned.
And all in Scottsdale.
And they were, and they were, they made a decision to buy based on an opinion of somebody else. Right. And like, I had a hard time with that. I was like, it's not, to me, real estate has always been numbers, data, and information leads to a decision. It wasn't like my opinion of this area is the reason that we should buy this property. I don't look at real estate for the beauty that it is. I like architecture and all of that, but that's not it, right? For me, what is the return on the investment that I'm making? And that's the vehicle that I'm using to build wealth. And people were like, they're investing money, relying on somebody's opinion. And I just felt like that was not the way to do it, that there was a better way. Like, how could you sleep at night knowing that you made a decision with half-baked information?
No, it's a good point. I think, even when I'm looking for my next property, your first initial person is your realtor, right? And they usually say Scottsdale. I was joking when I brought up Scottsdale, but they usually bring the hot area in your market. So, let's say Denver or in Texas, Austin is booming. So they tell you immediately to go to these areas, but you can't afford it. you're not considering how to get out of it. You got other strategies you need to think about. So, I love what you're saying about the data. I thought that was the most impressive part, is data behind your decision, whether that's vacancy rate, whether that is what should I charge. And even here in Scottsdale, we have to think about seasonality too, right? Like, in the summertime, you can get everything cheap. You can golf for cheap. You can do all kind of things, but spring training comes around. There is no more Airbnbs. There is no more hotels. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was the evolution, man. I mean, that was the beginning of now what is, what we call Easy Street Offers. And, Easy Street has definitely been an evolution. And I'm lucky to have been, like, in all the places I've been. Now I look back at that and I'm like, man, I was lucky. Like, even though at the time I was not happy about it all the time, we made a lot of money and sold a lot of real estate, but it was never easy, right? It's like never been easy.
Right.
So it's funny that easy is the name, but it's not. Nothing about this journey has been easy at all.
It's awesome that you can pass all of that on now and help so many real estate agents and investors now, right?
Yeah.
And so you did the dirty work for us, and now we can pass it on to everybody else. Love the name, obviously, Easy Street Offers. So, yeah.
Yeah, man. So, we're looking, obviously looking forward to more episodes of, us chatting through just, real estate strategy, how real estate investors can start to win in the real estate market, how real estate agents can start to play with real estate investors and do it in an efficient and effective way. So I'm excited for this podcast. I'm glad we laid the foundation in this first episode, but at least that's, we got to start from somewhere.
No, I appreciate it. And me too, right? I can tell you, me, in the real estate has always been the most emotional purchase for me.
Yeah.
Right. It's the most daunting. It's the most paperwork I've ever had. I feel like I'm signing my life away when I'm doing real estate transactions. And so to make it easier and understandable, just even in the short period of time of me being with you, I learned so much. Right. And now I even approach every real estate transaction totally different, right? With data and analysis and analytics, behind all those decisions. So I'm excited for the world to hear about it. I tell you that. So in all episodes, we're going to help investors. We're going to help real estate agents. Whether you have 50,000 or 5 million, right? There's this product's for you, and I can't wait to deep dive into that with you. Excited.
And definitely give real estate investors an additional place to just have a resource of information that's, you can listen to on a plane or listen to in your car or watch us if you want to on YouTube or wherever you watch your podcast. Listen to us just talk and have a conversation about real estate, because I think too many times people are trying to sell people something, and I that also drives me crazy. I don't like to be sold anything. Like, I hate that. So that's another reason the product's free, is I don't want to sell anything to people. I want them to want it. And but I think that I think that way about this podcast too, and hopefully we can turn some people's lives and build some wealth.
Without a doubt.
All right, man. Well, let's wrap up today's episode, and we'll see you on the next one.
See you next time.